start the procedure. We're recording
Yep.
the cloud. And then now we are going to go live on Facebook. And so, oops. Upper Midwest Bead Society. Oh, I spelled my name wrong. Sorry.
Uh-oh.
That's okay. You know who you are.
And so, you'll tell us when we're live, Maggie?
Yeah, it looks like we're pretty much live. Okay.
Cool. Well, hello. Welcome to our Saturday Beading Basics Live. Maggie, would you like to introduce us today?
Yes, I would. I'm Maggie Thompson, president of the Upper Midwest Bead Society, and I want to, excuse me, welcome everybody to, like Rochelle said, our Beading Basics live event. It'll go for 2.5, 3 hours, whatever we end up doing. And Rochelle is going to be the moderator, and she'll be teaching second. And Tia Pearson, who was our just this month's featured speaker in our member meeting, will be demonstrating one of her pieces and how to make it. And there you have it. I'm going to turn it over to Rochelle and Tia and get us on the road.
Right on. Well, I would like to introduce Tia. She is an amazing mixed media artist. And so could you please tell us a little bit about yourself, Tia, and then what you'll be doing before we get started with the project?
Sure. My name is Tia, and I have been working in alcohol ink for about 5 years. I wound up having both my hips replaced, and my doctor wanted me to not be a bartender anymore. So I decided I wanted to do multimedia art that would be made from upcycled materials. I think that we all should upcycle a little more by upcycled, and the planet will love us a lot and last for our children and grandchildren. So my mom and I have started our own business. My mom does kumihimo, which is a Japanese braiding technique. And we use those, we make jewelry, we do home decor, we've done weddings, we've done bouquets, pretty much you name it. I use beer cans for the most part. The piece that we're going to be making today, you can do jelly jars, you can do go out to Goodwill or yard sales and just pick up old vases and things like that, which is what I did. I went to Goodwill and got a few pieces. It also utilizes a tuna fish can. So that is the project that we'll be making today. It's a lantern with fairy lights. Yeah. So I'll show you guys a few of the things that we have done real quick. This is the piece that we're going to be doing today. If I can get it in better view. Nope. The base is a tuna can, and when we are finished with it, we will hot glue everything together. These guys out of the way. This one is a vase that I did that was just a jelly jar. It has some fairy lights inside. It also has fireflies and butterflies and moths on it. So it's a fun little piece. And then this is just a sampling of some of the different jewelry that we have done with the beer cans. Did both of these pieces we entered in contests with interweave, which was fun. And the hair accessories, this is a little brooch, could be a brooch or a hairpin, either one. And that's how we actually started out, was making those. So now we've kind of moved into the home decor. So without further ado, we will get started on our project. For the project I'm going to use the little votive, and you will need felt. And as I said in my list, you will need at least 2 colors of alcohol ink. I personally prefer Ranger's alcohol ink. It has more of an open time, so it gives you more time to play with how it's going to turn out. I personally do not wear gloves, but if you're someone who does not like to get your hands dirty, the ink is a little tough to get off your hand. So I did put that in my list. If you wanted to, you could wear gloves. I don't, for me, I'm allergic to latex, so gloves bug me, and I can just wash my hands so it doesn't bother me. But I generally cut my felt into small squares, which make it a little easier to deal with. And from there, it's pretty easy. You go ahead and decide what colors you want to use. Alcohol ink comes in a few different formulations, which are pretty cool. It comes in just the plain alcohol ink. It also comes in alcohol pearls, which make a pearlescent color, or they'll make, when you mix it with other colors, it just adds a shimmer to part of your design. And then there's also what are called alloys, which will give you a metallic to what you're doing. So there's tons and tons of options. There's about 86 colors now, I believe, with the pearls, the mixatives, and the alloys. So you have tons of choices, and you can also mix your own colors by blending on the actual piece of felt, which is fun as well. So I am going to start off. This one is going to be aquamarine, and you're just going to go ahead and place a few dabs of the aquamarine on your felt. I'm also going to use some eggplant, some amethyst, and a little bit of the tranquil pearl. And my amethyst. When you're doing this, I stick one hand inside your vase or whatever you plan on using. And then it's pretty simple. You're going to go ahead and just fold your felt and tap, 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 tap. The cool thing about alcohol ink is it's extremely forgiving. So if you don't like the way it is turning out and you want to add more of the turquoise, if you want to add some silver, if you want to do whatever you want, if you don't like the way it's turning out, just go ahead and grab a new when you add new color, you want to grab a new felt so you don't muddy your colors. And you'll be able to tell as your alcohol is drying because you will have less, when you press, you have smaller spots. So we're going to need a new felt here in a second. Take a look. And then just go ahead and turn it. And as long as you are still getting color, your alcohol ink is still wet enough to lay. That's about as far as we're going to be able to go with one felt. So we're going to want to grab another one and we're going to repeat our process. Little eggplant, a little triangle, and a little amethyst. The more times you go over, the darker the color is going to be. So if you go over what you've already done, you will go ahead and darken your colors and make them pop a little bit more. Once you make it all the way around, then you can go ahead and decide what you want to go back. If you want to go ahead and add more pearl, if you want to add some metallic to it. I think that when I go back, I'll add a little bit of the metallic. So we get a little bit of sparkle and shimmer. A little more on this side. You can do all kinds of cool things. I have seen them turned into actual, I saw a very cool lady who made one into an actual lamp. She took a huge jar and she inked it. And then she went ahead and used 12 gauge wire and made a frame and made a lampshade for it. And it was super cool. So you can do tons of things. This is pretty uniform all the way around. And like I said, the ink is pretty dark. And if you get it on your hands, like my fingers are pretty inky. So it's going to be pretty messy. But your vinyl gloves will keep that from happening. You do the alloys the same way that you do the pearls and the other colors. With the alloys and the pearls, you have to shake them up a bit before you do them because they do have pigment in them. Your regular alcohol ink is just alcohol ink and color. There's no pigment. You can also do faux mercury glass with the metallics. If you do it on the inside and it looks almost exactly like mercury glass when you're done, which is pretty cool.
The mercury glass is a really cool idea to make a look. Wow.
It's much easier than I did it with spray paint, and the alcohol ink is much easier. You just have to be really careful not to smudge it when you're on the inside. So it does take a little bit of practice, but it turns out pretty cool. The spray paint was very hard, I thought. So now that it's the colors that you want, then you have to decide what you want to do to decorate it. there's all different kinds of things you can do. I mean, the vase that I did, I actually cut the fireflies and butterflies out of beer cans. So you can do that. You can also purchase from a thrift store, or if you have old silk flowers hanging around that have seen are a little faded and maybe need a little bit of love, you can also ink them. That's what I did with these. These were originally white, and I had bought them from Michael's, and they had been hanging around for a while. And so this is what they were originally. And I went ahead and took them apart and inked them and turned them into little guys. I did some crystals in the middle and made them. They are all the colors that are in my base, my votive. And they're gonna get glued to the base. And it's pretty cool. All you need to do, all I did to make them is I took and I snipped the little piece of plastic that held them on. I made sure I had a couple of different sizes. And then you do the same thing. Go ahead and ink your felt with the colors you want to use. For this one, I did the tranquil purple. So I used the regular amethyst and then 2 of the alcohol pearls, the tranquil and the enchanted. Same thing, you go ahead and dab it. All the colors you want to do. And then you just take your flowers and you're going to go ahead and rub your colors on them. And I let it dry, and then you can go back in and spot color where you want to bring out more of the turquoise, or you want the purple to be brighter or darker. You want to make sure you get all your white. Or if you wanted to leave it, you could leave some pieces of white. That's kind of cool too. They all don't have to be the same because flowers in nature are not all the same. So that's pretty cool, I think. I think having each one a little different is pretty cool. That's one thing about alcohol ink. You can never, ever get something to be identical. So even with earrings, they can't be identical because you can do the same thing in the same order and get a totally different effect. There's a saying that I am a huge fan of Tim Holtz, and I think a lot of artists are like me and are perfectionists, and it takes them a while to let go of everything having to be perfect. But my favorite saying that he has is, with alcohol ink, you get what you get and don't throw a fit. I have watched probably 60 tutorials from different people on alcohol ink. And you can do everything from paint with a paintbrush to blow it with a straw. It's the coolest medium, I think. And you get totally different depending upon the device that you use. Gonna add a little bit more amethyst. This one. Darken spots. One more tranquil. Other spots. You can just putz with it until it's the way you like it. This one needs a little bit more tranquil. The cool thing about the alcohol ink pearls too is it gives your flowers a shimmer. That's why I chose to do the enchanted as well, is because it gave them more of a little pearlescence to it. Now, once I got them the way I wanted them, you will need, if you wanted to make some, you'll need some 24 gauge wire. And then I have a box of just random beads that I don't really have enough of to make anything out of. And that is perfect for making stamens for flowers. So whenever I have just a few beads left, I throw them into that bin and I wind up with a little smorgasbord of different crystals, which I think is super fun. You can do a million different things with them. And so you're just going to want to go ahead and string a few on, just randomly, whatever you feel like doing color-wise. I did about 5 for the other stamens. Three, 4, one more. Do a little dark purple one. Well, maybe we will. I think the older you get, the smaller, I think the older I get, the smaller these holes get. And then you're going to go ahead and bring one down. And then go ahead and twist. And then you can bring your next one down and twist. So for this one, I'm going to make, I think all of them should have different little centers. So you can go ahead and bring them each one down and twist wire in between. They don't have to be even.
You're a little off camera, Tia. There you go.
They don't have to be even, like this one is further out.
Perfect. Beautiful.
And then for this one, I'm just going to go ahead and twist it. And it's going to go in the center of my flower. So then I'm just going to go ahead and take my 3 flowers. Find the smallest one. I'm going to go ahead and line them up and thread my wire through each one. Come on, little fella. There we go. And then I like my flowers to be a little off kilter from each other. So there is our final project piece. And then you're gonna flip him over, pull him a little taut and take your shorter piece of wire, bring it down and wrap it so it won't come back through. I'm just going to want to wrap it enough to where it doesn't fit through the hole anymore. You're gonna have to fluff him a little bit when you're done. And go ahead and twist. You have this one done. So we need one more to put along the other side of our centerpiece. So I already have some that I inked in my little bin over here that I can just go ahead and string so you guys don't have to watch me do that. Color them again. I'm just going to do 2 for this one. So we're just going to cut another piece of wire. Actually, there's enough from this. We'll cut his little tail off. Put him over here with his little flower brethren. And for this one, do some crystals. Do a little pearl.
Yeah, I want to ask you a question on behalf of someone on Facebook. They are asking you, once the ink dries, is it color fast if it gets wet?
Yes, it
And
is.
the second, okay. And the second question is, would it fade in a sunny window?
That I don't know. I haven't put him in a sunny window. I'm not sure. Alcohol ink is waterproof. But since up to this point, I've only ever done jewelry, I don't know if it fades in sunlight. I would err on the safe side and not put it in the sunny window just in case. I don't know. That would be something that I would have to ask Tim. I'm not sure. So we're going to do the same thing that we did, but we're going to bring them down and make 2 little spindles out of the same piece of wire. So you're going to twist and then bring the bigger bead down and twist like so. And then you're going to do the same thing on the other side. You need to string one more on this side. Let's do a turquoise one. Do the same thing, make him a little bit longer. Twist. And then bring that up. And twist.
Tia, further comment on the, whether or not the stuff would fade. Gail says she went on Googled and read that you need to add UV protection to prevent light fading.
Cool. Thanks, Gail.
So now we know that.
Now we know. The more you know. Oh, come on, little fella. We have all these little guys. Twist down. And go through this one. And 2. And Do the same thing. Bring this little stamen up a little bit. There we go. We'll do the same thing. Twist him so he doesn't come apart. I do know that these can't go in the dishwasher, so you would want to just dust them with either just a damp towel or a damp paper towel, because water won't affect them, but you don't want to use a baby wipe either, because a lot of baby wipes have alcohol in them, and rubbing alcohol will take your ink off. Wasn't quite long enough. That's okay. Because we're gonna hot glue them on. Cool. So here is this little guy. He's a little more open than the others. So we have 4 of the hydrangeas, and then we have a rose that we did. We are going to glue them to the base once we have put a little ribbon around our tuna can to make him a little prettier. All my flowers out of my way. You can go ahead, you're gonna wanna go ahead and put the lids back on your alcohol ink so you don't tip them over. So do that, I'm gonna do that off camera real quick. Get them out of my way. The tops of them are meant to where they can sit out without drying out, but you don't want to leave them that way permanently. And if you tip them over, they do little dabs of alcohol ink. Rubbing alcohol will take that off. Back in here. Ribbon. We're going to use hot glue to attach the ribbon. I'm going to do 2 pieces. You're going to want it to overlap just a titch. So when you hot glue it, it will stay. Heat up our lovely glue gun. Cut our ribbon. Once you have your first piece, you can go ahead and just use it to measure and cut your second piece, depending upon how big what you're going to use for the base is. Cat food cans work great too. Rochelle's been saving me cat food cans. They work about the same as the tuna fish cans, which is great. Little fella. Takes just a minute for the gun to warm up. Set these on. There we go. And I generally just put a single line down. And add the ribbon. And then go ahead and bring it around. You want to just barely cover your edge so you can't tell that it's, at least I do, so you don't tell that it's a tuna can. Go
Do
ahead.
you like file or like, because sometimes the inside is really sharp. Do you sand it down the inside at all or?
No, I actually have one of those can openers that unseals it from the outside or
So
the
what
inside.
if you open the cat food cans and because that one is sharp, what have you done with those? Because I gave you the cat food cans, but those edges are kind of sharp in there.
Because I didn't do anything with them because I'm just gonna glue. This is gonna go on top.
Oh, okay. So that way it's
Yep.
not really touchable. Okay, cool.
Does not want to stay, so I'm going to stick another little dot of glue over here because it wants to slide down. Come on, little fella. Here we go. And of course, on camera, it doesn't want to cooperate. There we go. Usually use a wider ribbon, but Michael's did not have the color that I wanted and the 2-inch ribbon. So I had to improvise. You're going to take your little base or jelly jar, whatever it is, and you're going to go ahead and put a bead of glue. Come on, little fella. Just need to add another stick of glue. Push. Around your whole base. And then you're going to go ahead and set it in your can. So this is the first one, like the first ones that I made for Rochelle. You can make them short like this little guy. He needs a minute to dry. And then you go ahead and you could put this inside. And I always, when I am putting my decorations, I then go ahead and can hide my seam from my ribbon with my little flowers. And you're just going to put a bead of glue on the bottom of your little flower. Pull your strings. And then stick him right there. I got one stuck to my finger. And you can arrange your little flowers however you want to. The center one. When you're messing with your glue gun, be careful of your fingers because it is very, very hot. I say that I have asbestos fingers from so many years of working in restaurants. Okay. For this particular piece, I made some greenery and a couple of little butterflies, as well as the flowers. I cut the greenery and the little butterflies out of beer cans with the Sizzix. And so it's kind of like flower arranging. So you don't just have your flowers, you have a little bit more interest. So I took and made some different kinds of leaves to tuck in, which are kind of fun. And then a couple of butterflies, a solid butterfly. And then also an open butterfly to just kind of add a little more interest. I'm gonna just add a little glue. You can also alter greenery with the alcohol ink. So if you have some different foliage, like if you have some old like from Christmas decorations, wreaths and things like that, you can take the green and turn it gold or silver and change the whole look of the greenery as well. Let's go. I think our little butterfly can go over here. Put a little glue on the back of it and stick him right up in here. Up a little bit. greenery tucked in here and there. Other side. Want to stick. It's always fun to have just little pieces to tuck in wherever you would like. Where should this go? Little fella does not want to stand up today. No. Just a little bit. And when you're done, you have a pretty little centerpiece.
That is so pretty.
If you want, you can always like make more of the little wire spindles and tuck those in like I did with yours. You can use organic things, again, like I did with yours, the pine cones and things like that. There's all kinds of things you can do. You can also go ahead and hot glue it so you have it up if you want. You can do all kinds of cool stuff.
That is just lovely, Tia.
Thank you.
Yeah, and I love your colors too.
I know.
Can't tell I like purple, can you?
Well, you know, purple, periwinkle, that's all in the same school. They all play well together.
They do. They do. And you can make them for any season. I mean, you could put little ghosts on them and pumpkins. You could do a billion different things. And they're all going to look different depending upon the colors that you use and actually what you decide to ink. And you can also do really cool things like with the jelly jars, you can take and do hot glue along the top. And so you get rid of the rim. You can go ahead and hot glue and add beads or pearls so it doesn't look like a jelly jar or an olive jar anymore. It is pretty in right now to use jelly jars and things like that and let them look like jelly jars, but that's entirely up to you. You can go ahead and change the appearance of the jar as well.
Wow. Absolutely love, love, love all your great ideas to, keep upcycling and then just refreshing something old sitting on your shelf. Hey, I mean,
Yeah.
Well, and it kind of reminds me of bead embroidery too. It's just wide open. You
Mm,
can do whatever you want. There are no, basic rules that you have to follow to start.
no, not at all. It
So,
lets you be super creative, which is very cool.
very cool. Where do you find the cute little fairy lights? The little battery operated ones that are in here.
They are actually Tim Holtz tiny lights.
Oh, okay.
They are really cool because you get 2 sets at Joann's for like $7. Around Halloween and Christmas, you can get them on sale. I bought a bunch. They were on sale for 50% off. So you get 2 sets for like $3.50. And they take a hearing aid battery.
Oh, okay.
So that's cool. You can also, if you just wanted to do the flowers and not actually ink your centerpiece, you can actually take ink and you can, with Tim's, with the tiny lights, you can use alcohol ink and you can color your lights so they can be whatever color you want them to be.
Really?
I will do that real quick for you and put it in the one that I haven't inked. He sells them at Christmas time in red and green, and he sells them at Halloween in orange and purple.
Well, here, I'll change it to speaker view so then people can watch you. Put it on camera and do what you're doing.
yeah, and Tia Gail Erickson also has another comment. She says, I think that you can alcohol ink so many items to go together. Thinking you could have alcohol inked the 2-inch ribbon. Could you do that? Or doesn't that ink very well?
Nope, you can ink the ribbon. I could have changed the color of the pearls if I had wanted to. I've done that before with Rochelle's. I inked her pine cones, and I also inked the beads. I had gold beads that I started out with, and I inked them, the colors to go with Rochelle's centerpiece. I'm just gonna grab a piece of felt. And what color should I do? Let's do, I think the gold ones will probably show up the best. You can ink, Tim Holtz has a whole line called Ideology, and you can ink, there's little picture frames that you can ink. You can ink paper. It has to be anything non-porous can be alcohol inked.
Paper is porous. What's the deal with paper?
It has to be Yupo, a plastic coated paper, because if you want it, because it won't, the paper will absorb it. So instead of it blooming and doing what it did on the glass, it's just going to be the puddle that you put on there or your fingerprint that you put on there. It's not going to bloom because the paper will go ahead and absorb it.
How long does it take for all of that ink to dry?
Seconds.
Oh, okay.
Because it's alcohol based, it dries almost instantly. You're just dabbing the little lights. Ensure you get it all on them. Was that the last one? No, we'll pretend it is. And now you have little light blue lights. As opposed to the clear ones. they have a little light blue hint to them. You could do purple or pink or whatever color you wanted to do, which makes it really cool. If you just wanted to have the flowers and do colored lights, you could even do half of it one color and half of it another. So when it plays together, you get the two different colors. So it's a really cool substrate. You can do tons of stuff with it.
That
Well,
is
that's just
so
amazing.
cool. Oh my gosh. And so where do people find more of your stuff? Or do you teach more classes, or what? How can more people find your stuff?
I do have an Instagram right now. It is at Tia Pearson Designs. We have things posted. We're going to be posting some more things. We have a whole bunch of new designs for this summer, which have been really fun. I spent most of last summer learning how to use resin. So we've added resin into our pieces, which was really fun. We're going to be doing a bunch of stuff for Christmas and Halloween as well. And we're working on an Etsy shop right now. So.
Super. That is just so exciting. Well, I'm really excited to see what all your different, holiday things and everything come up with. I mean, I'm sure your creativity is so amazing. The skeletons and spider webs and witches. Oh my gosh. And black cats. Oh, do you have a die cut for a black cat?
I do have a die cut for a black cat. It's not very big, but yes, I do. I have ghosts. Last year I made, I think, fancy ghost earrings. They're very cute. I cut them out and then I embossed them. I sent them through a geometric embossing folder and then put pearls on them. And I think they turned out pretty cool. This year, I want to try to find some cute pumpkins and a bigger cat and a sturdier spider web. Although I do have a technique that the spider web will work now. Last year, I didn't do the resin and didn't know about the vellum. Because that's the other thing you can do is like the open butterfly, you could put vellum behind it so it looks like mother of pearl behind it.
Wow, that would be cool. Oh my gosh.
Yeah, it's
What about fairies?
I do not have any fairies. This guy has vellum behind him, so he's cut out and then there's vellum. I inked the vellum and put it behind. And then that is a lovely druzy from Dakota Stones.
Nice. Do you incorporate a lot of stones into some of your works these days since you're hanging out in Stone Land?
I do. I am a big fan of, have some pink tourmaline that I'm in the process of adding into some. Kayla and I decided we were going to bring feathers back.
Okay.
So she challenged me to make a pair of feather earrings. So I have another 2 coats of resin to go.
Wait,
But,
show us on camera. I can't see.
I have to stick the feather in because I don't have them made because I still have
you're
to
so
resin.
cute. I love it. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to put you on the spot. Oh, those are
And then-
beautiful.
And then I'm going to go ahead and wire wrap my cone with some pink tourmaline. Or no, sorry, pink zircon.
What's the difference between pink tourmaline and pink zircon?
Pink zircon. Pink zircon is a little bit more translucent
Okay.
and more sparkly because
Okay.
zircon is super sparkly.
That's what I was wondering. Ricky just dropped off stones here at Bobby Bead. So we are fully stocked now with all of our new stone selection. So if anybody wants more stones, we now have them available to the public. And we're open on Saturdays as well as Sundays. That's all the commotion you hear in the background is we're open today.
And you could always use these techniques that I did to make pretty little hair decorations or weddings, and you could go ahead and pull the stones into the little flowers.
What a great idea. Does Goody Beads sell the little hair clip things that you made your barrette out of?
Yes, they do. And they also have bobby pins that have loops on them. So you can go ahead and put them on a bobby pin. And I think they have the clips as well.
So, well, check out goodybeads.com for all the rest of those findings parts. So then you could.
And the wire came from you guys. The 24 gauge wire is your craft wire.
Oh, okay.
It's my favorite to use for things like this because it's non-tarnish and you get a ton of it for what you pay. And it's really strong. It doesn't break. It doesn't tarnish. It's really nice.
Yeah, and we just got it now in I think 8 colors. It's silver, gold, rose gold, bright copper, antique brass, titanium, hematite, and black.
Ooh, black.
Yeah, and so from 30 gauge to 16 gauge. So we just got stocked a whole bunch of more wires. So
very cool.
Yeah. So you never know what color you might need. So we just tried to get them all.
That's cool because they work really great with the Cone-tastic because they're pretty malleable. They work really great with the Cone-tastic.
Okay.
So I do.
We don't have square wire. No, I'm sorry. It's all just the normal round wire. We do have a little bit of the artistic twisted wire. It just came. It's on a spool and it's pre-twisted. But that's the only other one we just got. Sorry. And if you have any questions, please let us know.
That twisted wire is awesome to make bales with because then you can go ahead and you make your bale and then your ends, you can go ahead and untwist them and make spirals without having to add wire.
Oh my gosh, what a creative idea. And then it just stops it and decorates it at the same time.
Yeah, I cannot take credit for that. That is a white from Beetle On. Little tricky trick, but it's fantastic.
He's got lots of tricks. And so I was watching their live video yesterday, learning some new ring techniques. So I'm hoping to incorporate those soon. But
I watched him and Kleshna the other day. That was pretty cool.
Right on. Well, if you guys want to see more projects from Tia or from anybody, let us know. We want to hear what you would like to see. We have our Beading Basics Live happening one Saturday a month. Every month, it's usually the middle Saturday of the month. And now we're also going to be having a all August long summer camp program. And so we'll be having classes of all different levels, some free classes, some that will be having a small fee for 1 hour, 2 hour, 3 hour, 4 hour classes. So look for our new program coming soon, but all August long. And so it won't just be a normal beading basics in August. We're going to have classes 3, 4, 5 days a week. So look forward to a whole lot of fun. And so that's all for August, but otherwise in July and June, we'll both be having it in the middle Saturday of the month. So the 19th and I believe the 15th. So hopefully we can convince Tia to teach a class during our summer camp program.
I think
well,
you can
and some of those classes are going to be in person and some will be Zoom, depending on the teacher and the venue.
Exactly, because Maggie Thompson, our president here, and Lisa Dooley, we get all kinds of teachers who live in great parts. It could be in parks, and you could have a live class, and otherwise we can Zoom them all, and so we're looking forward to the fun.
That sounds like a lot of fun.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Tia. So everybody look forward to Tia Pearson Design on Instagram. And then we'll also look for your new Etsy shop.
Yes, I can't wait till it's done. I have lots of questions for Maggie.
I better unmute myself here and laugh a little because yeah, I think I've run into almost every glitch that Etsy has come up with, and figured out either a way around it or, yeah, it's, they have lots of little idiosyncrasies. So you just have to learn them. And yes, I'll be happy to help you anytime you need, Tia.
Thank you.
Ask Maggie what she thinks of weighted bobbins.
Maggie, Mom wants to know if you like weighted bobbins.
I like weighted bobbins when I am not using a foam disc. In other words, I'm not trying to tuck the cords into the slits
Okay.
in the disc. And only because it makes my braiding too tight.
Okay.
But I do think they're absolutely essential if you're going to use, you know, my little stand as a Meridai and not use a foam disc. You're just going to move it around, you know, it's called a mirror, whatever that top part, you know, the top circle is called a mirror. And you just move your cords back and forth that way. And then the weights work great.
Okay. So then you basically would just put the pattern on top of your little stand instead of using the disc.
Yeah, you don't even need to put the let me see where I am here. Oops, I'm gonna unvideo me here for just 1 second. Oops, well, I thought I was. There we go. I just use, if anybody's seen my stand before, I just turn it over like this and take the foam disc off the top and then just use it like this.
Okay. That makes sense.
With, you know, with your weight down the center and then the weighted bobbins on the other side. So you get counterweights working well that way.
Okay.
And it works really great. I've done it. It works really great with silk cords or, you know, heavier duty yarns, something that you're going to do a little bigger thing with.
Cool.
Maggie, have you done square kumihimo?
So funny you should ask that, Becky, because I'm looking at getting some different types of yarn, and I want to do, you know, and the square braid is kind of hollow, I think.
What I'm trying to get is a flat piece, and I can't
Oh,
make
that one. Okay.
the beads tuck under like they're supposed to.
Yeah, like they're supposed to. Yes, I've taught that class a couple of times when I worked at Beadville, and I find that flat square braid, the tension is really tricky.
Okay.
And if you don't get that tension exactly right, you end up with a snaky looking braid, and you know, it's not my favorite technique.
I may try something different. Thank you.
But, you know, there are all kinds of different braid structures that you can do. And I'm actually looking at, like I said, getting some better quality yarns, not just, you know, something to fool around with, and something with some texture to it and presence, and do a 12-strand braid.
Oh, wow.
And maybe getting beads in, maybe not, but 12-strand are usually round and hollow. And so then you can, you know, you can put a core in there, you know, to solidify it up. So it doesn't just squish when you wear it.
Oh, very cool. And you could put wire in there too, so you could like memory wire, so it would hold too.
Yes, you can. It usually works a little better if you have a core, and I've just used 2mm satin and just wound fireline around it to make a core, and then cut it because it doesn't fray. That satin cord doesn't fray. So anyway, enough. We need to move on to
Rochelle.
No reason we can't have a Kumi Hemo supply, discussion in the middle here. This is Beading Live, and those are some tips for our Kumi Hemo basics. So look forward to seeing classes from Maggie about Kumi Hemo coming up in our August summer camp program.
Definitely. I'll be doing at least 2 and maybe more. We'll see.
Super.
Go
Well, looking
go
forward.
ahead, Rochelle. You need to begin with your project, your lovely earrings.
Well, this sounds fabulous, and I am very excited to, we have now learned a little bit better how to screen share our other camera in a nice, easy way instead of logging in twice and switching back and forth. So thanks to Alexandra Sidorenko, who will be our September speaker of the month. She's giving me a whole lot of new Zoom teaching tips. So she'll also be teaching a class for our summer camp program. She's a specialist in embroidery. And so we'll be making a little bouquet from Alexandra. So today what we're doing is we're making this neat little fringe, charming fringe technique. And so we're putting metal charms on the bottom of beaded fringe. And I'm using Toho demi beads today because they are a really unique skinny shape bead. They are a little different than their traditional round beads. So they're the same diameter and hole size as your 11-ohs, 8-ohs, and 6-ohs, but they're just cut in half. So they're half as tall, like little spacer beads. So that's what I have done with my right angle weave here today, is mix some demis with some regular rounds, added some great charms, and then I put them on to these wire hoops, which these are tiara cast charms, and these are also tiara cast pre-made wire hoops. And these neat little hoops actually just open and close. So that way you can easily put your charms on and off, and or change them if you wanted to. So first what we're going to do is teach you the right angle weave technique of making these fun little fringes, and then we are going to teach you how to make the neat little loop. If you don't want to use the pre-made tiara cast loops, they do have a little hook on them already on the top. So that's part of the reason why we're using demi beads. A normal round bead couldn't fit on this little hoop. It just gets stuck on that edge there. But the demi beads, being so skinny, and they will fit right on there. And this is a 17 gauge pre-made hoop, so that's why it's pretty sturdy. But if you wanted to make your own hoops, you certainly can do that. And so that's why I'm going to show you later how to make your own fun hoops, how to accent them a little bit more, and kind of go to town on a little bit more exciting things. So what first we're going to do, I'll show you the pattern. Hopefully we can multiple screen share, maybe not. And so let's look and see here. So what we're gonna do first is the little, we're putting little charms on the bottom. And why we use the tiara cast charms is because the loop on the top is oriented the correct direction. So that way it acts just like a little bead and it hangs proper, and you don't have to use a jump ring or anything. And so I'm going to show you the pattern. So we click on to new share, basic. So here we go, classes. Sorry, bear with me with the technology here. And so can everybody see the pattern on the screen, I hope? If you can't see the pattern, let me know. And
No, we're not.
not
We're
seeing
seeing,
okay.
no.
So, okay, so let me try this again. So then there we go, screen share. So now are you seeing the pattern?
Yes.
So the
Yep.
charming fringe earring. So what we do, each fringe is a separate piece of thread. So I just use about 2 feet, 3 feet of thread for most of the fringes. And what we're going to do is a right angle weave. So we will add 4 6/0 demis and slide it down to leave yourself about an 8-inch tail. And you'll go through those beads a second time so that it'll form a circle. And then when you run into your tail, just tie a little tiny knot with your tail. That way those 4 beads will lay at 90-degree angles and you will be able to have really nice tension. And so then you're going to pass forward through 2 of the 6/0 demis and exit out right in the middle. So your tail will be on one side that you'll be able to hold on to, and then you'll exit out of the second demi past your tail. And so we are going to create our fringe in a little pattern here. So we are going to add, after that, you only add 3 beads, and we're going to use the bead we just came out of for our 4th bead in our right angle. And so we're going to follow the pattern. So we'll add 3 11/0 round beads, and then we will slide them all the way down to the demi, come back around, pass through the demi you just exited, the 3 new beads you added, and then once again pass through 2 more beads to exit directly after your tail. And we're going to work that all the way down until we get down to the bottom to the charm. And we treat our charm just like a bead. And so we will put back now to our camera so that will show you how to do this. And so we now are once again back to our fun other camera. And so I am using the Toho 1G thread today. With all of my fringes, I really like to use 1G thread instead of a fire line. It has a little bit of stretch so that you can have your fringes lay really nice and straight. The fire line gets a little tight. So, and what I do is I'm matching my thread to the main color of my beads. And since today we're using black beads and bronze beads, kind of an antique bronze, I'm just going to give it a shadow. So I'm going to use the black thread. And anytime you're working off of a tiny little bobbin, you need to pre-stretch your thread. So whether it is Nymo or Eslon or 1G, they just tie it so tight when they weave it around that little bobbin that just to get the kinks out of it and get it working straight, you'll get about another extra ½ inch to an inch of a yard. And that way it won't be. When you're using the giant bobbins, the thread is not wound so tightly, so it comes right off smooth. And so you don't have to pre-stretch the 1G thread anyway when you're using the big bobbins. But the little guys you do. So you could just bead right off your bobbin if you wanted to. These fringe are so small, when you're making these little guys, 1 yard of thread will make each fringe. So for this one, I usually cut just a yard of thread and then once again leave a long tail because I always weave in my tails for extra strength. And this one we're using to hold on to. So we start again from, if you remember the pattern or you downloaded it, we are going to pick up 4 of the 6/0 demi beads and then slide them all the way down to leave yourself a nice 8-inch tail. You want something to hold on to. I always put them on my finger and hold the thread with my finger right behind it to hold the tension. And then I've got the other part of the thread between my thumb and forefinger. I can easily pass around, slide through all the beads. Then I pinch those beads with my other hand so that I can pull my thread backwards, and they'll start to form a circle. So like I said, just tie one tiny, little right over left, left over right here. I normally don't use knots in my projects, but because you do need to have tension for this project, and this way it's really no big deal. There's no moving parts, so it's not going to happen. So like I said, your tail is here and you've now formed that X. So move forward through 2 more 6/0 beads so that you're exiting out. And since I'm right-handed, I have the thread exiting out the left side of the bead so that I can always go around from the right to the left. This is a interchangeable size. So normally on right angle weave, you're going right and then you're going left. But since this is a completely reversible pattern, we'll flip it in between each one. So we're always going to go the same direction. So if you're left-handed, I would probably have your thread coming out the right side so that you could always make your circles correct. So either way, we're going to be consistent here. So we're going to have the thread coming out of the left side of our bead. And what our pattern says is that we're going to pick up 3 of the normal 11/0 round beads. And so I pick up all 3 beads. And then I hold my thread between my fingers while I slide it down just to smooth it out. And then I hold it right on my finger just like this. So that once again, it's tight behind there, and I can pass through the 6/0 demi I just exited and the 3 new beads I just added. I pinch those beads in place and pull them towards me so that those 3 start to form another circle. So we are now right before our 6/0 demi. We want to exit out the second bead of the 3 we just added every time in order to get our fringe to go straight. So pass through the 6/0 demi that you just exited, the first and now the second bead of the 3 you just added. Whatever 3 you added, you are always going to exit out the second bead. And see, now I'm coming out of the right side of that bead. So I'm just going to flip it over. So I'm coming out of the left. That way I can maintain my control. I know exactly where I am. And so we are now going to add the next beads in the sequence, which are one of these tiny little 11/0 demi beads, and then actually a giant 6/0 bead. So that's a regular 6/0 round, and then a little tiny 6/0 11. So it creates sorry, that was too close. It creates just this little center focal bead right in the middle. And so slide all your beads down, hold it with your finger, pass through the bead you just exited and all 3 of the beads you just added, pull it towards yourself. And now since this bead is so big and its friends on the side are so little, I'm just going to grab it and pull it away from myself so that it'll sit more at a T, at a 90-degree angle. So then you'll pass through the original bead you exited, which in this case is an 11/0 round. And then I'll pass through the side bead and then the second bead. So this is a right angle weave. I usually recommend going through 1 bead at a time, and you will then maintain those 90-degree angles. Once you start trying to go through 2 or 3 beads after that first circle, they might lay cattywampus, and you really don't want to catch your thread either. Otherwise, they won't lay straight. So now we're going to follow that pattern once again. And so usually it's a repeat of whatever I did just before that black bead. That's how I do my pattern sequences, is there's a center and then you just repeat it the other way. So we're going to add a small little black demi bead and then an 11-0 round in this bronze color, and then the little demi again. So add your 3 beads, slide them all the way down, and pass through the bead you just exited, which in this case is the 6-0 round, and then you'll pass through the demi, the 11-0 and the demi. And I usually pick out that center bead that I want so that they sit correctly. And also then you don't capture, we don't want to splice the thread. You really don't. And so then I'll go through my side bead. And then I'm always going to exit out of the second bead we just added in the sequence. And so I'm going to rethread my needle because the Toho 1G thread is a little slippery, and so it does slide out of the Toho needles quite frequently. So if you aren't sure how to thread your needle, the easiest way, we needle the thread instead of thread the needle. So we pull the thread right between your thumb and your first finger, and then set the eye of the needle right on the thread. And so now our pattern calls for 3 more 11-0 round beads. So we're just creating that nice little bronze, black, bronze, black, bronze pattern. So pass through them all again. Pass through the bead you initially started in the first previous cube, then the second bead on the side, and then the middle bead, because that's where we're going to exit. So now we're on the very bottom of our first fringe. And so right now we are going to put a tiny little demi bead, and then we're going to pick up our charm, and then we'll pick up a demi bead, and then we'll do just like we did with our previous ones. Like I said, these are the tiara cast charms, so the hole is oriented the other way, so it'll hang straight without adding an extra jump ring. So slide it back on your finger. You might just have to lay it down so that you get it correctly. And sometimes the demis are a little small. They might try to go into the ring on the charm. So we are doing that same thing where you pull the center bead so that it lays at the T, and then pass through the bead you exited from the previous. And see, when you pull it tight, then the little side beads will form the T. So that's why we go through one at a time to create that 90-degree angle. And when you're at the charm, it's kind of large. So I usually go through this one again. It's also metal. And so you do want your thread to be tight. You don't want it to move around. And so then we can just pull it to make sure that it's laying correctly straight down, and we'll pass through it the third time. And now I'm just going to weave my way back all the way up to the top to meet my tail. It's just going to reinforce my fringe. I know I went around in circles going up, so I'm going to do the same thing in reverse backwards. We're going to keep our 90-degree angles. I usually flip it around and wrap it around my finger so that I can hold it, because I usually like to work away from myself. So that way I can easily pass through the bead on the right, the bead in the middle, and then I can go in the bead on the left, when you're right next to the big 6-0 in the middle, sometimes if it's a little loose because of the size of the bead, just go through the circle one more time. It's obviously in reverse from what you did it the first time. So now it'll hold that a whole lot tighter. So if any of your fringe in your right angle weave is loose, don't be afraid just about going around and around and around. The holes of the Toho beads are so big that you can go through the 11-0 round, the 11-0 demi, any of those you can go through 11 times with the size 11 needle with the Toho 1G thread. You can probably go through more, but you for sure can go through 11 times. So we're almost up to our tail now. And so I am just winding my way through the last of the beads. Now I'm back through the first 4 6s at the beginning. And I just met my tail. So I, once again, just like at the very beginning when I met my tail, I'm just going to tie a little knot, right over left, left over right. It is now tight. None of those things are going to move. My swinging charm. And so now all I do is weave downward to weave this tail in. And I usually backtrack. And so you can pull on the charm to make sure that it's all laying straight so that they lay at 90-degree angles and everything is all straight. And then usually right at the very end, when you have your tail, that's the only time I will then spike it through my thread at the very, very end so that when I trim that tail, it's not going to stick out anywhere. So then I have this tail left, remember, from the very beginning. So I will take my needle and I will thread my needle on my original tail. And then I am going to go backwards around the 4 beads just to re-secure and hide my tail and get it as nice and tight as I can. And so when I am trying to weave in my tail at the very end, that's the only time that I will purposely spike my thread so that I can hide it in there and it's going to remain nice and tight. Some people like to do an entire half hitch, which you certainly could do. There's nothing wrong with that. I still would then go through and spike my thread and hide the tail. So that's just one of those things. You could burn your tail if you wanted to. It's just that the demis are so large and you see a little bit of the thread next to the demis that I'm always a little hesitant to burn things when it's right next to the demi. So that's just the way it is. So this is one fringe down, and the way I made it was with 3. And so you do it exactly the same way. To start with, you'll just follow a different pattern. And I always make similar patterns. So instead of 1 or 2 or 3, and then there's the center part, and then 1 or 2 or 3. And these are just really fun little hums of charms, which, like I said, Tiara Cast makes. You can do anything you want. So then after we make our other 3 charms, the one in the middle I made was longer, and then the one on the right and the left were the same size. So the different sizes were just in the charm ends. So now what we're going to do is feed them all onto these neat little rings because we want them to look like this. And so the other demis are used as spacer beads in between here to space them out so that the charms hang correctly. And so the demis are so skinny that they really fit on there nicely. So we're going to add some of the black beads. Let's see, I've got some black 6/0 demis here. They're just so fun. I really like the demis. Everything you do with a demi turns out very similar to, or I mean, it's different. It's not like it would be with a normal seed bead because they're either spaced further apart or like, so it's way more airy in the right angle weave. Every time you do right angle weave with demi, it's super spacey and airy. So you need to, the thread is a very important part of your project because it definitely shows. And so the sorry, so we're going to add some bronze beads here. We're going to add some, I wanted my 6/0 demis, sorry. There we go. So then add your first charm after a couple beads. So the front of these little guys, you want to make sure if the charm only has one side to make sure you put it on so that it's at the front. So the curve part would be the front of the earring. And so that way the front of your charm that has a little pattern would be the front, and then that's the back side. So when you're working with it, you can flip it back and forth. This is the only time that there really is a front of your charm and a back of your charm when it is dealing with the placement. And so, but these 6/0 demis just make really cool spacers, and they're little glass jump rings. So use them for all kinds of fun things, right? So then we'll put on the center charm and a couple more spacers, 6/0 demis. And then, whoops, there you go. And then we'll put on the third charm because 3 times a charm, right? Okay, that was a bad pun, but that's all right. I know when nobody's laughing in the virtual world, it's kind of, you're laughing with yourself, right? So then you just close it right up. So we,
No, actually, Rochelle, we're all laughing at you.
well, that's so good. I'm glad, you know, so if you unmute, then I know that you're there to laugh with me, you know. It's really fabulous. So then we just add our ear wire right to the top of our thing. And these are, I love these TierraCast niobium ear wires. They're hypoallergenic and they come in that antique brass, which matches everything I do. And so we just create this really fun little charming earring. And they're not that long. If you hang them up to your ear, they're pretty little, you know? And so I, of course, wanted to make big ones because, you know, why not, right? So start out with a cute little pair and then turn yourself into some fun big pair.
Shoulder dusters are in.
They really are. And if you've got your off the shoulder shirt on, there you go. So when you've got a braid on one side, you can make a short little one for one side And then you can make the long one for the other side. And I just added also on the bottom of the fringe, these little pieces of leather. And these actually I got from Tori. She did some die cuts that she sold at one of our bead society meetings. And so I bought a whole bunch of her little leather cutouts. And so they're just really light and airy to add as well. And I just sewed those on right after I finished the fringe on the charm. I just sewed it right on there. So,
Hint, you could use cute little metal leaves from someone we know too.
well, and that's why I was wondering if you just sold pieces parts or if you only sold finished ones, because I do think it'd be really fun to put your leaves on the bottom of my charmies.
Of course I could do that.
And so if you wanted to completely go metallic-y, what I did was I covered the entire wire with demis on this one. This one I did with the pink perma finish demis and the silver perma finish 6.0 demis, but then I was just using my own 20 gauge wire. And so that's why, just to add texture, instead of just decorating part of the wire, I decorated the whole wire. So you can really kind of, figure it out yourself. So your charms don't have to be, the center one the longest. What's your idea? In the middle here, I put a fire polish. This is a little 3mm fire polish. So instead of that 6.0 round bead, I just picked up a demi, a fire polish, a demi, and that was my third bead in my fringe. And so it's really a whole lot of fun. If you want to, like I said, create your own hoops, instead of using the Tiara Cast pre-made hoops, you can do a lot more different things because it's not pre-twisted. You can just start with your 20 gauge wire. And what I normally do is use those little earring stoppers, that you use, the rubber guys, so they don't fall off. I use those on my wire so that my beads don't fall off. And so they're great little bead stoppers too. So I can take my 20 gauge wire and then put on smaller beads. These are size 11.0 rounds and 8.0 demis on here. And then I just made a loop at the top so I could hang another charm in the center, and then I've got the charms at the ends. So that way, because a 20 gauge wire, you can put an 11.0 seed bead on there. And if it's straight at the end when you start, then you can get a smaller bead. When you're using the pre-made Tiara Cast ones, they already have the loop bent for you, and it's even nicely ground down and everything, so that it's not sharp. But you're limited by what you can put on them. The 6.0 demis are big enough to go around there, but the littler beads aren't. So if you want to learn how to do your own beaded hoops, that's what I'll show you now. So these guys, I made bigger beaded hoops because I really wanted a bigger statement, obviously. So I added more spacer beads in between them, and then I added a bigger loop on the top so that the second charm in the center could be there. So with 18 gauge wire or 20 gauge wire, whichever you like, the 20 gauge artistic wire is really nice. The other beadsmith non-tarnish wire, like I said, that comes in all these great colors, is really, really nice to work with. And so depending on what you want size wise, I have a couple household tools that make the perfect size. One, my favorite earring size is the prescription bottle earring size. And so you wrap it around your perfect, wonderful prescription bottle that usually we all have at home. And then cut a couple extra centimeters so that you have enough to work with your wire. So you can always keep your bottle at hand to create your circle, to keep your circle going. But otherwise you are, sorry, I forgot to take out all my pliers, huh? So if you take your normal round nose pliers, and create the top loop first that you would, just like you're doing for a normal ear wire. That way you get a really nice place to start. And so I just create that nice loop on the top, and I'm just going to make one single wrap so that I've got room underneath there to then wrap the lower guy around there also. So then I trim off my extra of my top one, and I'm going to just tuck his little end so that he's not in my way. And you can always trim a little bit more later. And so then what you want to do, since you've got your wire and it's nice and straight, so instead of a bead stopper, I've got my top on there now and I can have a stopper. So then I can pick up any beads I want to put on my 20 gauge wire. Even the little 11/0 demis will fit on there. The 8/0 demis will fit on there. I usually just create a fun little pattern with the beads, so that it gives a lot of interest next to the fringe. So we're just filling our hoop up with beads, whatever kind of beads you want on your hoop. And then we can add our first fringe wherever you like. I want a little 8 next to that. So this is where your ideas just come into play, and you can just slide your fringe right onto there. And then usually I create those patterns again, remember, only in reverse. That's the one thing about patterns, is it's not a pattern really unless you repeat it. So repeat it one direction, repeat it a second direction, and then those act as really nice little spacers in between your fringes. And so I was making these neat little fringes while I haven't supplied myself yet with all the alcohol inks. I really would like to stock up, but I'll get there. At the moment, one project at a time. So we're just adding our fringes and adding onto our thing. So if we decide we just want to make this a really small one, I didn't finish the third one, so I'm just going to add a different color fringe just so you can see how you would do it. I didn't quite finish during our class. So I'm going to end up with the same little bead pattern on the edge. You always want to end with the same thing you started so that you have a little bit of symmetry in your work. And a little accent goes a long way. You don't have to cover up all the wire. That's just kind of something I did to see what it would look like. And I think it's really fun. And so now when you want to add the top loop here, we want to obviously know what size we want it. And my favorite size to do things is the Sharpie size. So this is my second favorite tool next to my prescription bottle is my Sharpie. And it's really pretty cool. So if you want to tighten it back again next to your prescription bottle, and I usually hold the loop with one pliers so I can get it pretty tight. There you go. And then you're just going to wrap the other wire right around there. We're going to make a U-turn with our wire. That's it. So make it nice and tight and then just make a U-turn. So if you're holding one, your other hand can do that. Then you can slide it off. So see how it just slides right on there. Then make sure it's not crisscrossed. Take your Sharpie. If you want to hold this tight with one hand, you can. I usually hold the thing with my fingers and the Sharpie with my other finger at the same time. And then my left hand will grab my new wire and just wrap it right around the Sharpie. So that way it's exactly that size. If you want to grab the end, if your fingers aren't very tight, so that way. So then we can put our new charm, and you want to make sure if your charm is a front side and a back side, that the front of your ear wire, the way it's twisted, is where the front of your charm goes. So get the front of your charm, slide him on that loop you just created, and then I usually pinch the top just a little bit more, and then you can grab the end of that loop and wrap it right around the bottom of your first wrapped loop. So it's a pretty simple version of creating your own. If you want to make a larger wrap loop, like go around a couple wraps, that's completely your decision. I usually pinch it just a little bit with my pliers, twist my wire, and then once again, you can straighten it out with the end of your Sharpie. If you have one of these fun pliers that has different size, a larger point, you can also make these loops whatever size you want by where it is on your pliers. But if you push your charm out of the way, then you can straighten that loop so that it looks like a really nice loop. But if the charm is in the way, you're going to get the indentation of the charm. So then we swing him back into place and just straighten him out, you know, just with your pliers. And so obviously if this were the same color, it'd be super groovy and great. And that way you can just have a really nice charm on the top. You can have your mixed media. You could even create all different shapes if you wanted to. They don't have to be round, but it's a lot of fun if you want to do that. If you want to just create some round shapes and just add simple beads just to the round shape. So this is the prescription bottle size. And then I just added one little loop and I added a whole bunch of fun beads. So these are a bunch of metal beads, and that way you can just make the simple loop. If you want to go a little bit more crazy, you can add just, you know, a larger loop. and add some more charms, add some more beads. So there really is kind of an endless, limitless thing when you want to make your own loops with your own wire. And the 18 gauge and the 20 gauge works well. If you want to use the Tierra Cast pre-made loops, they are about 17, or they're 17 gauge, but they're 20 millimeters around. And so the prescription bottle is more like 33 millimeters around. So it just depends on what size you like. But they're just so much fun to do. And so you can really, like I said, go to town, do anything you want. These are more that I made from Tori's little leather pieces that she did on her Sizzix machine. And so I even took it, cut out the center, and then just added them to my little charmies over here. So these are the demis as well. This is not a right angle weave, but it is using them just in a stringing technique so you can get depth and dimension. It goes from regular rounds into the little demis, and then you know, adding the leather on the bottom and just doing a loop. So there's no rhyme or reason to what your imagination can come up with. And I'm really excited to see what you guys come up with. If you want to add lots and lots of leather to them, I did that as well. And so on the very top of the loop, I took leather fringe and then I wrapped it around the very top of the loop and just sewed it. So it has a few seed beads on the front for a little extra texture and bling. Folded it around the wire. You could probably add a tiny little bit of glue. I didn't, I sewed it, but then I cut really neat fringe out of my leather. If I would have probably used a roller, it would have been straighter, but you know, why not a little texture? And then you got the fringe hanging on the bottom. So it really is limitless to what you can do with a little bit of seed beads. And these are the turquoise seed beads. And so here I just used the right angle weave with turquoise, and I actually filled it in with a round. So, you know, the right angle weave, when you do a fringe with it, gives you that neat like X shape. So then depending on how you stack them up, when they're really long, obviously you can see a little bit more of that neat pattern versus the demure. So what colors you use also will really, you know, change and make something pop. So it's really a lot of fun. You know, demis are, I think, an underused bead. And so, but the Tiara Cast charms come in gold and silver and in brass. So that's why they mix so well with the niobium ear wires and this is the perma finish gold demi mixed in with the black. So, just have fun with your whatever you're doing is my only recommendation. And I don't know, does anybody have any questions?
I just want to say thank you so much, Rochelle. You are forever surprising me with your creativity. And I shouldn't be surprised. I'm just in awe of your creativity. So thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. It's you know, it's really fun and you have lots of movement. So because the glass demis are sliding on the glass or the wire hoops, it's, you know, constant movement. So it's,
Mhm.
that's what I like, you know. But if you're wearing a hair, then the long ones get stuck in my hair. So that's why I created all the little short guys too. Um,
Some of us don't have that problem. We have short hair. So if we have multiple holes in our ears, then we should be wearing, a really long one, a medium one, and a shorter one in the back.
Too
On
bad.
each
And
ear.
normally that's what I do, but if you can't do that, then just have it on a hoop, and that way you can have multiple lengths on one hoop. So
Yep.
there you go.
And Bead Lady says, I really like the right ankle weave dangles. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. And so, check them out, have some fun with them. I really like the really bright pink ones that I just made. So depending on the shape of the hoop and how far you space them out, is how they'll stick out or whether they'll hang straight down, that kind of thing too. So I'm
Mhm.
looking forward to seeing what you guys make with them, and see. Yeah, this one I made had all kinds of neat stuff on it. So it's
Oh, I
more-
love the Tiara Cast Lotus charm.
yeah, they're really fun. So I just kind of, stuck everything but the kitchen sink onto there, and
Mhm.
And then the other one has the different lotus charm because of course I only had one. So I put a bead and then the lotus charm at the bottom. And once again, those turquoise pieces that I got from Tori. So Tori, cut some more pieces, or maybe I can get some leaves from you because like I said, I don't have a Sizzix machine. And that just looks so much fun. Oh my gosh.
It is such a fun machine. You can do so many cool things with it. I love it.
And so, but I collect all those mixed medias, so I don't know. Maybe a party, a cutting out party, mixing together stuff. I don't know.
This all looks like a throwback to my 60s and 70s hippy dippy days.
Well, and that's exactly it because, my mom was wearing a pair of earrings, which were just the hoop with all the
Yep.
beads on it. And she's had them my whole life, and she's an old
Mhm.
hippie. I mean, I was born in 66, okay? Conceived in the summer of love, right? So basically, I'm like, oh my God. And so she laughed hysterically when I was wearing the same pair of earrings she already had for 42 years. So,
Look, I've never done that. Sweetheart, come on, catch up.
I know. I've been collecting jewelry forever, but everything comes back around and around. So
It
that's
does.
why here's just a fun little new twist on it, for just in case. But yet, if you want to be simple, I do think the simple is really nice. And then you just add a little charm in the center, and they really just, are everyday wear.
Rochelle, if you want a play date, I would bring my Sizzix stone.
Oh my God.
Ooh, there you go. You got to take her.
Oh my gosh, oh my gosh, oh my gosh. So yeah, I got one more week before I'm fully vaccinated. I got my second shot a week ago. So we're doing
Good for
good.
you.
So I'm very excited. So, well, thanks for joining us, everybody. Like I said, anything you want to see more of, let us know. Anybody that would like to teach with us, give me a contact because we're always looking for people to share all your talents with the Upper Midwest Bead Society's followers, Bobby Beads followers, because we're all bored. We don't want to just sit home alone. We want to be together, right?
Exactly.
So look for us next in 2 weeks from now on June, what is it, 5th? Is our member meeting, Monday night member meeting. And we've got Diane Fitzgerald coming up there doing history of geometrics and the Johnson solids. And then in July, Beating Basics Live, we have Gail McMillan, who is going to be teaching a whole bunch of fun chakra designs, basic chakra bracelets and chakra earrings to give us an energy boost. And so
It's June 7th.
June 7th is when Diane is. Okay, thank you for correcting.
Yep.
My calendar says May, and I can't get that far from here and stay on camera. So, but if you have any questions, or you would like the pattern for my charming fringe earrings, the small version that I taught today, I even have 15 or 20 kits for. So if you want the full kit, and the kit I have is made with the tier cast niobium ear wires and the tier cast pre-made loop, and it's in the bronze and black. And so I have like 15 kits. So if you're a member of the Bead Society, the kits are only $12. If you're a non-member, they're $15. And you can contact me at Bobby Bead or through UMBS and get the kits. And the pattern is already a free download for you. But if you want the whole thing in one kit and caboodle, we have those available for you.
Cool. Thank you, Rochelle. As always, interesting and fun to watch.
Thank you so
And
much.
something unusual and creative, and just you open doors for people. So thank you so much.
Absolutely. Well, the videos will be here, and we're posting them also on YouTube, our YouTube channel soon. So then you'll be able to watch them in the future. If you missed any of our videos, you'll be able to still catch them all and bead along with us. So thank you once again for joining us. We look forward to seeing you again, and message us if you have any questions still, okay?
Oh yeah, everybody on Facebook is thank you, ladies.
Yay.
So-
Yay!
All right. Bye. Have a good
Thank
day.
Okay.